Be honest with you. Lately, opening my social media feeds, it feels a bit like walking into a crowded room where everyone is screaming at once. It's loud, it's fast, and, half the time I'm not even sure if I'm looking at something made by a human. It just feels like the human element is getting squeezed out.
That is a very, very common sentiment right now. We're all dealing with the kind of algorithmic fatigue. We're just oversaturated.
Right. But then I started reading through this stack of documents you sent over for today's deep dive. It's all about this community event called Expo the Artocalypse,
Mm.
and specifically their recent 25 Days of Art Expo from this past December. And I have to say, reading about how they organized this,
Mm.
it felt like taking a deep breath.
It's a fascinating case study because we're not just looking at an online art gallery here. We are looking at a very specific set of community architecture choices. We have their announcement posts, the rules, and the archives of their past events, specific the data from late 2024 through 2025.
And the mission today isn't just to look at the art, because obviously we can't show you the pictures, but to look at the system. How did this group manage to build what they call a network of admiration? That phrase really stuck with me.
It should. That's the core theme. The Artocalypse seems to be attempting something. Well, something pretty radical, fixing the way we consume creativity online by changing the rules of engagement.
So let's start with the biggest rule change, the 25 Days of Art Expo.
Hmm.
On the surface, it sounds like a standard advent calendar. Open a door, get a piece of chocolate, or in this case, a JPEG.
Structurally, yes, it borrows that familiar 25-day countdown. But the real difference is in how the content actually got there.
This was the part that just blew my mind. Usually, if I want to get into an art show, I have to submit my work to a jury or pay a fee. Or, if it's social media, I just post it and hope the algorithm smiles on me that day.
Those are the standard models, right? The
Yeah.
gatekeeper model, where an authority decides what's good, or the algorithmic model, where engagement decides what's visible.
But the Artocalypse source material says, and I'm quoting here, members invited artists they admire.
Members invited artists they admire. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But think about the mechanics of that. It shifts the entire power dynamic.
It's peer-to-peer.
It is, but it's more than just, friends inviting friends. In a juried show, you're trying to impress a judge. You're trying to fit a standard. In this model, you're being recognized by a peer. If I invite you to the expo, I am using my social capital to say, I believe this person's work deserves attention.
It's like a referral system, or like reputation staking.
That's a great way to put it, reputation staking. If I invite someone who creates low-effort work or acts poorly, that reflects on me as the inviter. So the quality control isn't coming from a rule book. It's coming from the social bonds of the community itself.
The text mentions that this structure makes the expo, and again I'm quoting, sparkle with connection. Now, usually I'd skip over a word like sparkle because it sounds like marketing fluff.
Yeah.
But do you think they mean something specific by that?
I do, actually. Think about a network graph. You know those visualizations of data with the dots and lines?
Sure.
A traditional gallery is a hub-and-spoke model. The curators in the center, they pick everything. It's a star shape. But a member-invited model creates a mesh. Member A invites artist B. Maybe artist B invited someone else last year. The connections crisscross. So when they say it sparkles, I think they're describing that multifaceted, decentralized network. It sort of glimmers from different angles because it's not just one person's taste.
It's a collective taste.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that leads to a much more diverse output than a single curator could ever manage.
Okay, so we have this web of admiration deciding who gets in, but then we have to talk about how the audience actually sees it, because this is where I think they're really fighting against that doom scroll culture I mentioned.
The release schedule.
Yes. The rule was one new artist feature every day from December 1st to December 25th, 2025. One. A single feature.
In an era of infinite scroll, that is an incredibly aggressive design choice.
It feels slow.
It is slow. And that friction is intentional. We're used to consuming content in streams. You look at an image for, 1.5 seconds, your brain registers cat or sunset, and you swipe.
If I'm lucky, I'll give it 2 seconds.
Right. But by artificially limiting the supply to one artist per day, the expo creates a bottleneck. If you go to the site, there is literally nothing else new to see for 24 hours. You have to look at that one artist.
It forces you to focus. It's like, I don't know, remember when there were only 3 TV channels? You'd just watch what was on.
It's the power of scarcity. By reducing the volume, they increase the value. And looking at the instructions they gave attendees, they really lean into the slow consumption vibe.
Oh, I love the instruction. It didn't say click here to view. It said, so grab your favorite tasty beverage and enjoy.
grab your favorite tasty beverage.
It's so analog. It creates a physical scene in my head.
It's a behavioral cue. They're trying to break your internet mode. Internet mode is hunching over a phone, scanning for dopamine hits. Tasty beverage mode is sitting back, relaxing, and, acting like a human being.
It's inviting you to treat the screen like a gallery wall or like a book.
Recontextualizing the digital space, they're saying, this isn't a feed, this is an event. Prepare yourself for it.
And once you've got your beverage and you're looking at the art, there's another feature that really reinforces this human element, the visitor's book.
Yes. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the visitor's book.
Now, functionally, is that any different from a comment section?
Technically, no. It's a text box where you type words. But psychologically, it is worlds apart.
How so?
Words act as frames. If I see a box labeled comments, I think of YouTube. I think of arguments, hot takes, memes. It's a low-stakes, high-volume environment.
True. Comments feels disposable.
But a visitor's book, that implies a very specific social contract. Where do you find visitors' books?
Museums, bed and breakfasts, weddings.
Exactly. Places where you're a guest. By using that term, the organizers are signaling to the audience, you are a guest here, behave accordingly. And generally people do. You sign your name, you write thank you, you write something thoughtful.
It changes the user from a consumer into a guest.
And it changes the artist from a content creator into a host. It restores dignity to the transaction.
Dignity. That's a word we really don't hear enough when talking about the internet.
No, we don't. But looking at the data from this community, this whole approach, dignity, slowness, invitation, it seems to be working. Because when we look at the ecosystem of expos listed in the source, this thing is growing.
Right. Let's dig into the numbers. Because the source material lists a few other events, not just the December 2025 one. And the comparison between them is, well, it's kind of wild.
We have 3 main data points to look at.
Okay, first we have the 2024 End-of-Year Artist Feature Expo. That one had 25 exhibits.
That's our baseline. It matches the calendar. 25 days, 25 artists, standard, manageable.
But then we get the 2025 Ink Small Trading Card Expo.
Okay, pause. Ink Small Trading Card.
It's a mouthful.
It is, but it tells us so much about the values of this group. We're talking about digital art expos, right? But trading card and ink implies something deeply physical.
Yeah, trading cards are tactile. They're little pieces of cardboard you hold in your hand. And ink usually means pens, brushes, not pixels.
So we have a digital community that's organizing around the creation of physical miniature artifacts.
Yeah.
It suggests that even though they're meeting online, they are craving that tangible reality. They want to make things that exist in the real world.
And the participation for that one, it listed 35 exhibits.
35. Now, this is where the logistics get interesting. A month is 30 or 31 days. So how do you run a one-a-day expo with 35 artists?
You'd have to double up on some days
Yeah.
or run it for 5 weeks.
The source doesn't give us the specific calendar for that one, but it shows the demand to participate was exceeding the days of the month. The community was growing.
The 35 is growth. Then the next one is just an explosion. The 2025 Ember and Ink Poetry Expo.
This is the data point that really caught my attention.
57 exhibits.
57. That is more than double the size of the original end-of-year show.
And it's poetry. I mean, usually on the internet, visual art is king. Pictures get likes, text gets scrolled past. Why on earth would the Poetry Expo be the biggest event of the year?
It is counterintuitive, isn't it? But I think it speaks to the nature of the community.
In what way?
Well, first, just consider the barrier to entry. To make a trading card, you need supplies, drawing skills, a scanner. To write a poem, you need a thought and a keyboard. It's technically more accessible.
That's true. But 57 poets, that's a lot of reading.
It is. And if they stuck to the one-a-day rule, that expo would have lasted nearly 2 months.
2 months of poetry. That is serious dedication.
It implies that this community isn't just looking for quick visual candy. They're willing to read. They're willing to listen. Ember and ink. Again, we see that obsession with ink permanence writing. But ember.
Ember feels warm. It feels like sitting around a campfire.
Exactly. You share stories around a campfire, you share poems. The fact that 57 people felt safe enough to submit poetry, which is often very personal, very vulnerable, that tells me that the visitor's book culture is working.
That's a really good point. You don't stand up and read a poem to a room full of trolls. You only do it if you trust the room.
The high participation number is a proxy for high trust, that network of admiration we talked about earlier. It's clearly strong enough to support 57 people bearing their souls in verse.
So we had this massive poetry event. We had the trading cards, the community's expanding. But then for the big end-of-year event in December 2025, the one we started with, they went back to 25.
They contracted.
Why? If you had 57 poets, why not do 50 days of art? Why go back down to 25?
I think it returns to that idea of the spotlight.
The day to shine.
Exactly. If you have 57 features, inevitably some people get lost in the middle. The event drags on, attention spans wander. But 25 is crisp. It fits the holiday season. It fits that Advent structure.
So it's a curatorial choice to prioritize quality,
Right.
or rather to prioritize attention over quantity.
It creates that scarcity again. If I know there are only 25 slots available and I get one of those invitations, that invitation is gold.
It raises the stakes for the member who invites.
Tremendously. If I can only invite one person and there are limited slots, I'm going to think very, very carefully about who I champion. It ensures that the people who end up on that list are truly deeply admired.
And for the artist.
Imagine being that artist. You aren't just one of thousands of posts that day. For 24 hours, you are the only thing on the website. You have the full, undivided attention of the entire community.
That must feel rare.
It's validating. In the attention economy, undivided attention is the most expensive resource there is. Giving an artist a full day of it is a massive gift.
It really circles back to that word you used earlier, dignity.
It does. The entire structure, the invitations, the tasty beverage, the visitor's book, the limited number of slots, it's all designed to treat the art and the artist with respect.
It's funny, the name of the group is the Artocalypse, which implies, destruction,
Yeah.
the end of the world.
It does.
But everything we've just discussed, building trust, sharing poetry, writing thank you notes, it feels like construction. It feels like they're building a shelter.
I think that's the point. If the old internet, the toxic, algorithmic, bot-filled internet, is the apocalypse, then this expo is the bunker. Or, better yet, the garden they're growing in the ruins.
A garden of ink and embers.
And connection, that's the real product here. The art is beautiful, I'm sure, but the connections between the people, the member who invited the artist, the guests who signed the book, that is the real masterpiece.
So I have a practical question. This worked for this specific group. They had, maybe 100 active participants across these events?
Based on the numbers, that seems like a fair estimate, yeah?
Can this scale? Could we have a version of this with 1 million people? Or does it just break if it gets too big?
That is the big question. The web of admiration relies on trust. I have to trust that you have good taste when you invite someone. If the community gets too big, those bonds weaken.
It becomes anonymous again.
Right. And if it becomes anonymous, the visitor's book turns back into a comment section. The sparkle turns into static.
So maybe the lesson isn't how do we make Facebook do this, but rather how do we make more small spaces like this?
Exactly. We don't need one giant platform that fixes everything. We need thousands of Artocalypses, thousands of small, curated communities where people pour beverages and look at things slowly.
So what does this mean for you listening at home? I'm guessing most people listening aren't planning to host a digital art expo next month.
Maybe not, but the principles apply to everyone.
How so?
Well, think about how you consume things. Do you give yourself permission to have a tasty beverage moment? Do you ever just stop scrolling and actually look at one thing for 5 minutes?
Rarely.
Try it. Curate your own attention. And on the flip side, think about the invitation mechanic. We all have the power to amplify people.
You mean like sharing other people's work?
But doing it intentionally. Not just a mindless retweet, but sending a message to a friend saying, hey, look at this specific thing. I admire it, and I think you will too.
Be the node in the network.
Be the spark in the sparkle. That's
Yeah.
something we can all do, without any coding skills or gallery walls.
I really like that. It puts the responsibility and the fun back on us. We aren't just passive consumers. We are active curators of our own circles.
We are the architects of our own networks of admiration.
Well, this has certainly made me want to slow down my afternoon. I might even go find a visitor's book to sign somewhere.
Highly recommended.
But before we wrap up, we always like to leave you with something to chew on. A little mental homework.
We do, and I want to go back to that core mechanic we started with. Members invited artists they admire.
The golden ticket.
Right. I want you to imagine you have one. Just one. You have the power to give someone in your life a day to shine. A day where everyone you know has to stop and pay attention to what they do. It doesn't have to be a painter. It could be a colleague who writes amazing code, A friend who bakes incredible bread. A cousin who tells great stories.
Who comes to mind?
Exactly. Who is that person for you? And here's the provocative part. Why haven't you told them yet?
Oof, that's a good one.
In the Artocalypse, the active invitation is just as creative as the art itself. It sets the stage. So, who deserves your spotlight? And what's stopping you from turning it on?
I think I've got a couple of text messages I need to send after this.
Me too.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
See you next time.